What's up everyone? My name is Shaelyn and on this channel everything's all right. Before we get started into this video, I wanted to remind you guys to join the YouTube fam. What are you guys doing? I know the majority of my viewers on here are actually not subscribed, and it's totally for free, and it's a really easy way to show your support and stay up to date with my uploads. Another thing I wanted to preface before getting into this video is that the topic might be triggering for some people. So here's your trigger warning now. You saw the title of the video. If that subject might be sensitive for you because of some trauma that you might have experienced, then click out of this video. Don't worry about it. I'll be back next week anyway. Now that we got that out of the way, I bet that the majority of you who haven't experienced paralysis before clicked on this video to further your education about paralysis or just out of curiosity. Either way, I applaud you guys for that. I think that it's really important to break down the stigmas and raise awareness about important subjects like these that are typically hidden from the public eye. So thank you so much for watching this. So to kind of get into it a little bit, there's really no good explanation that would align with everybody's experience. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of similarities, but like I've said in previous videos, everybody's journey with disabilities and specifically strokes are usually pretty different. I think the majority of people have an idea that paralysis just feels like nothing, but one thing I think is common with everyone who has paralysis is that there's no such thing as the feeling of nothing. Even if there isn't any physical sensation, there's always going to be some kind of emotional or even psychosomatic aspect to having a disconnect from limbs or a portion of your body. The more time that goes on, the easier it is to cope with, but even after being this way for almost 8 years, I still have days where I'm like, damn, I've really lived with this disability for this long. I really only used my right hand for that long. I've really been walking with a limp and paralysis in my left leg for almost 8 years. Especially because I lived with a completely able body for 17 years of my life, and then before I knew it, I was given this life-altering challenge. And not to mention, I was just expected to come to terms with never being normal ever again. Believe it or not, the craziest part about having paralysis for this long is the dreams for me. Till this day, I don't think I've had a dream at night where I've had hemiplegia in them. Like, I fully use both of my arms and hands in my dreams. I can walk completely normally. I can run miles at a time without even thinking twice. Just goes to show, up here, it's all the way it was before my stroke, aside from having a TBI and an insane amount of wisdom that I've gained. Now, there is this trick around the internet for able-bodied people who have never experienced paralysis that kind of simulates what it's like to have paralysis. And I also have one that I figured out for myself. So for this portion of the video, I'd like to invite all you able-bodied people out there to do these next two things to somewhat experience what it feels like to have no movement in a portion of your body. The first one is with your hand. So what you're gonna do is place your hand flat on a hard surface. This won't work if it's like a squishy or bendy surface, so make sure it's hard. Now tuck all your fingers in except for your ring finger, and finally try to lift your ring finger upward. Now you might be able to wiggle it side to side like that, but you won't be able to lift it straight upward. With paralysis, you can put your mind to it as much as you want, but whatever it is that you're trying to move will not budge. The second one is for your foot. What you're gonna do is place your foot flat on the ground. You can be standing or sitting, it doesn't really matter. And you're gonna lift your toes up separately, starting from your big toe. So big toe, second toe, middle toe, second last toe, and now pinky. Easy-ish, right? Now that your toes are all up, try putting them down the same way, starting with your big toe. You might be able to put your big toe down, but that's when the struggle starts. You just can't get your second toe down in that order, can you? Okay, I'll help you out. Start with your pinky toe this time. Put your pinky toe down, and then the second last, middle, second, and now your big toe. Phew, now your toes are all back down. Now, if that wasn't frustrating enough, let's try one last one. Try lifting your toes again, but this time start with your pinky toe. And no, you're not allowed to rock your foot toward your other foot to peel your pinky toe off the ground. Genuinely try to lift that pinky toe off the ground first. Honestly, you might be able to get the pinky, but it's the ones that follow after that. You definitely won't be able to. At least I don't think so. Okay, that's all the tricks for now, I promise. In all seriousness, that feeling that you got to experience so briefly is an everyday constant battle for 1 in 50 Americans for all different parts of the body. With that can come a list of debilitating things like mental health issues, chronic pain, and so many other things. I don't want to speak too much on chronic pain because I'm not the best educated person on that, but from what I've gathered, chronic pain can have an obvious cause, like from an injury that caused nerve damage. And some people can have chronic pain that isn't tied to any kind of injury or chronic illness, which I believe is also called psychosomatic pain. So I'm just gonna let myself ramble to kind of give you guys an idea of the mental and emotional struggles that can come with having paralysis. Starting first in the hospital with losing all of your independence and privacy so abruptly and having to give all of your trust to strangers to help you with anything and everything. Shortly after comes the uncertainty of your future. Everything you thought your life would be that day, for weeks to come, and for the next following years has completely turned into an abyss of questions. People in your life start treating you completely differently, almost as if you are not you anymore. Since the secondhand experience can be really hard to deal with, and people might find it awkward to find their place in your life again with your new disability, friendships can change or even end altogether. Looking at my own reflection after my stroke for the first time, or the first few times, or all the time for that matter, is one of the most jarring experiences. Put it this way, you know yourself as one thing, and then no matter how hard you try, you never look the same way you did, even close to the way you did ever again. Like, I see things about myself that nobody else sees that's different, and I'm aware of that, but it's not just how others view me, it's about how I view myself and how that affects me personally. Speaking of looking at myself, I used to be in love with taking pictures of myself and having my picture taken, but now it's a complete ordeal to be in a picture. I have to strategically pose myself to look normal, or if I'm unable to, like in a group photo, then I feel vulnerable because more of my disability is visible than I want it to be, and that's a whole other level of embarrassment. And on top of that, that's always something that's in the back of my mind when I'm in any kind of social setting. Seeing my own reflection or even just a photo of me now that I've had a stroke has given me a complete different level of body dysmorphia that I never even thought imaginable. And then there comes the guilt. No, not about what happened to me, because that was completely unpredictable, but it's the guilt of doing so many things, doing everything and anything to help myself with my paralysis, whether it's the endless hours of physiotherapy and exercises and research and just praying for a miracle. Then there's also the guilt of relying on others for help, or the guilt of knowing that they think that they should be helping, but they just don't know how. And then just when you start getting used to the lack of sensation in your paralyzed limbs, some sensation might start returning, and it's abrupt and scary and really confusing. Most of the time for me, it feels like it should be something exciting, like something new is about to change, like I'm about to have a breakthrough with my recovery. And then sometimes it just doesn't, like a false sense of hope. A lot of the time it's the sensation of pain rather than the sensation of something normal. And that's what can be the most frustrating, because I just want to feel normal again. All of the information that you have to absorb about your new condition when you first have a stroke is so overwhelming. You feel like you need to be an expert about the ins and outs of what happened to you and everything associated with it in order to defend yourself and answer questions when people ask. Speaking of learning information, having to educate yourself while being a new member of the disability community to fight internalized ableism is an entire task in itself. With all of these hardships, whether it's dealing with chronic pain or battling mentally or emotionally, there comes another aspect, and that would be that there are no days off. You actually can't take a break from this extremely exhausting disability that you didn't even choose to be a part of your life. You just have to deal with it and all of these things and so much more that comes with it. Along the way of this journey with paralysis, and especially lately, I found the importance of living in the moment to help with my anxieties. So many times in my pre-disabled life, I found excitement and comfort almost in thinking about the future. And I was very sad to learn that I had to let go of that because of the anxiety that it brings me since my stroke. For my own sanity, I've had to live in the moment most of the time for my own sanity and just take things as they come. And that's how I found the most peace within myself. I found this quote somewhere and it really resonated with me. It's, "No amount of regret will change the past, and no amount of anxiety can change the future." I love this because it's really taught me about myself, and that through meditation and learning to be more mindful, I can slowly stop comparing myself to who I used to be and start focusing on my current self and relearning self-love. If you made it to the end of this video and you didn't quite get the straight up answer to what it's like having paralysis that you were looking for, then I hope that you were at least able to further your understanding of the complexities and variations that are disabilities and paralysis. I know that this was a pretty deep video and it was a bit different for me, but I hope that you enjoyed it. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, follow me on all my socials linked in the description down below, and I'll see you next week for another new video. Okay, bye.